Live from the House of LeMay Makeup and Dressing Room.
Here comes Amber. Stop what you're doing. Here comes Amber. She's just doing what she can. Here comes Amber. Cue the spotlight. Here comes Amber with 2 drinks in her hand. The matriarch of fashion, secret super glasses, you can't look away. Ask her, does she do it? There's really nothing to it. She's got that feminine gaze. If you have a party, or if you're feeling naughty, call up the House of LeMay. Here comes your favorite gal. Here comes your queen. Here comes the talk of the town. It's Amber Live tonight. The music starts playing. It's time for cabareting on Amber Live tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn off all cell phones and get ready for your host, Amber LeMay.
Hello, and welcome to Amber Live, episode number 97. Yes, 97 Sundays. You've been here to Amber Live, but you know what? You need to like, share, and subscribe. You want to share the love of Amber Live tonight. And we've got a great show for you. And to start it off, let's bring Russell in.
Hey,
Russell.
Hi
there. Oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to tonight's show.
Oh yeah, me too. This is exciting.
A couple weeks ago, we got in contact with Charles Busch and said, "Hey, would you come on our show?" He goes, "Sure, I've got nothing else to do." And he spent like 2 hours with us on a Saturday afternoon talking. What we thought would be one episode, we're going to make it 2, aren't we?
Yeah, and I was just talking with our guest Robert Fernaro from last week the other day, and I said to him, it's crazy because during the pandemic, it's opened up all these opportunities. Who would have thought a legend like Charles Busch would sit down and not only do like an interview, but do a full 2 hours. I was expecting he'd give us 30, 40 minutes and, 2 hours later, we're wrapping it up and just having a grand old time chatting with him. What amazing.
Finally, he said, I'm kind of hungry. I need to eat something.
Well, it was 3:00 in the afternoon at that point.
Yes, it was. All right. So we want to tell people what's the best way to watch the show tonight because they aren't going to want to miss a thing.
No, and the best way to watch, as I always say, is on YouTube. So you'll want to go to youtube.com/AmberLive, and there you can see all of us in our full HD. You can see Amber in HD, and you can see Charles Busch in HD, and you'll just have a much better view. And then I want to remind people, don't forget, we have a great TikTok site, we have an Instagram, and we've got our website, amberlive.tv. So again, if you're not watching on YouTube, you may want to pop over there. And while you're there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because those 3 things really help us out. It helps promote the channel to other people who have never heard of us. So thank you.
Yes, do that. And, while you're on YouTube, you can go back and see all the past episodes and interviews and clips and a lot of other things that Amber Live has put out, thanks to Russell.
The other 96 episodes.
Yes, they're all there.
Which means we've had like close to 200 guests on the show. Can you imagine?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, great guests as well. All right, Russell, what else do we want to talk about?
Well, we want to talk about what helps us keep bringing in all those guests, and that's the Bustiers. So thank you to the Bustiers. We have an amazing list of people who have helped us and kept us going, and our super Bustiers are just vital and so important, which are Craig Hilliard and our secret admirer. And then this week we have Doug and Fred helping us out again, and we always appreciate that. Doug and Fred are good friends and good supporters, and we want to thank Judy Alexander, a brand new Bustier. So thank you, Judy. We welcome aboard. If you'd like to be a Bustier and help us out, you can go to Venmo at RJDPro, or you can use amberlive.tv and just look for the support Amber Live, and you can use a credit card there. And then if you give $25 or more, you get a sticker of our beautiful, beautiful logo. And $100 or more will give you a magnet and a sticker of the logo. And for $200 or more, you get a magnet, a sticker, and a mug. And the mugs are fantastic. I really love the mugs. So.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Well, that's great, Russell. So coming up in the show, we've got several segments of Charles Busch. Plus, we've got, we've got a great visit with Dwayne Scott Searney. Tell us what he's going to show us.
He's going to be doing vintage exploitation movie posters, which is perfect for Charles Busch tonight, who is loves to do noir type plays with himself as the female lead. So I think that was a great choice by Dwayne. And then we've got
Pass the Tea. We got Pass the Tea. RuPaul's Drag Race is dwindling down the contestants. So we're going to want to find out what Emoji thinks about that. So that's Pass the Tea. That's coming up. And Rocco, are we going to see Rocco?
We always got Rocco. He loves to stop by.
Okay, so let's get on with the show, Russell.
All right. Enjoy, Amber.
I'll see you later. Oh, yes. So like I said, it was a great afternoon talking to the legendary Charles Busch. And here's part one of that interview. He's an American playwright, actor, director, novelist, drag legend, cabaret entertainer, and Tony Award winner. He's been a major voice in theater, movies, and television for the past 45 years. It's my pleasure to talk to Mr. Charles Busch. Charles, come on in.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello. It is such a pleasure to be able to talk to you. I have so many questions.
Well, I do have to give you one correction though. That I was a Tony nominee, but I didn't win.
Oh, you did. Well, you should have.
Oh, I was robbed.
Who won that year?
Oh, some little play nobody ever heard of called Proof.
And
the other nominees were these people I've never heard of: August Wilson and Tom Stoppard.
Oh wow! And you didn't beat them?
I don't know why, But actually, the wonderful thing is that I was so overwhelmed that I was nominated, and I never ever thought that was going to be, and so and I knew I wouldn't win. So I went into this whole circus of the Tonys with the kind of a wonderful, kind of relaxation of just being able to enjoy the outrageousness of the experience and not be all nervous. However, that said, those last 5 seconds while they're, saying the nominees, I'm like, what if they all cancel each other out? And the thing is, what I do not understand when I watch these award shows is when people win, an Oscar or a Tony or Emmy, and they get up there and like, oh my God, I don't even have no idea what to say. I mean, I just fight you and all these things. There's like a month between the nomination announcement and the awards. There's not one moment that you stood in front of the bathroom mirror and started, just going over your thoughts. Because I mean, I've been planning acceptance speeches since I was 9 years old. Haven't you?
But I have noticed that, like if it's for the Oscars, that if they have a theater background, they are more prepared, or more, I should say, more composed.
A bit more, yeah. Yeah, but I never get that. I don't have an idea what to say. Really? Because I knew I wouldn't win, but I can't say that I didn't, pose in front of the mirror and this award, what this means to me, and I like that.
Oh, of course. All right, you've done so much over the past half century. I mean, obviously you started at a very young age. What are your first memories of being creative or seeing something and thinking, I like that, I want to do that?
Oh, that's an interesting way of asking. I feel like I always had a creative imagination. I was just one of those little gay children who, I was lucky that I basically grew up in New York. And I had a wonderful aunt, rather like Auntie Mame, my Aunt Lillian, who took me under her wing and actually eventually, very much like Auntie Mame, adopted me. I went to live with her when I was 14. But even before that, I spent so much time with her. And I was just one of those kids that could find the enchantment in anything. If Aunt Lillian took me to go fabric shopping because she was going to make new drapes, and at 7 years old, I saw a basket of fabric remnants, and I'd pick up the piece of glittery stretch fabric, and I could spend an hour just fascinated by, oh, there's one side is shiny, the other side is matte. I was like, I was part of that kind of kid. There's many of them, and fortunately for me, I was so encouraged. A lot of kids who have that great imagination grow up in families or situations where they're stifled and they're not encouraged. And I was really lucky that everything I did was a work of genius. And so it gave me, even though the outside world might thought I was just, an oddball, and
Do you remember the first thing you wrote or performed?
Well, I gather that I don't really remember, but people tell me that I show up on Facebook, who were kids in my neighborhood when I was very, very little, and seem to remember all sorts of plays that we were doing in the backyard that I was bossing people around. I don't remember that at all. Is that you?
Yes.
I thought you looked familiar. But I wrote my first, I'd say, full-length play when I was 11, and it was kind of nobody seemed to notice that it was a complete mashup between The Heiress and The Barretts of Wimpole Street. I'd just grown up watching these movies on TV, and so I just was entranced by it.
Did your aunt take you to any Broadway shows?
Yes. I started going to the theater when I was, I guess, 8. And the first Broadway show I saw was a musical called Taboo, starring Vivien Leigh. And I guess that was 63, so I would have been 8 to 9. And I'd already seen Gone with the Wind and was just obsessed with Vivien Leigh. So I remember quite vividly, it was such an important thing, the first Broadway show you see, and Vivien Leigh. And,
Was it a musical?
yeah, it was a musical, her one musical. Yeah.
Huh. I don't recall that show.
Yeah. Well, it was a huge hit. She won the Tony for it.
What? Oh, she did win.
Yeah.
Okay.
She won. Yeah. I'm sure it made a lovely speech.
What other shows did you see as a kid?
Well, we tended to see a lot of flops and not the big hits, because my aunt belonged to something called the Macy's Theater Club, where you would get, before the Broadway season would start, they would give you a list of all the shows that are opening, and then you would buy your tickets in advance, and you had to kind of have ESP to figure out what is going to be the hit. And we had terrible ESP because we didn't see Hello Dolly or Fiddler on the Roof. We saw these sort of famous flop musicals that are now rather legendary, for the wrong reasons. But then later, sometimes then we would see later we get kind of half price tickets, they'd call them twofers, that you could, they would give you 2 tickets for the price of 1 for some of the big hits when they were not such big hits anymore. So we did see some of the big shows, but we saw a lot of flops. Yeah. But the thing is, I in a way, it didn't matter to me as a little kid. I wasn't looking at it with that kind of critical faculty. I mean, it's kind of amazing to me that I didn't become a set designer, because what stuck with me about some of the shows were the visuals. There was a musical that was not successful called Baker Street that was based on Sherlock Holmes, and I just remember there was some incredible big musical number where they were chasing across the roofs of London, and the set just kept moving and changing, and so that just whoa, Or I'll remember another show, The Revolving Turntable, and how the sets kept moving so quickly, and stuff like and color. The movie for I was taken to see rather adult movies at a very young age, and often
In Times Square?
yes. Well, Aunt Lillian liked to go see the second run movies. When a movie would not be playing at the big fancy theater, they'd play at one of the theaters on 42nd Street, which was already a little dicey, but we would see things there. But I remember like the movie of Gypsy from 1962, just the colors of that movie, the reds and the incredible blue of Natalie Wood's gown, and just those things just stuck. Or Gone with the Wind, just Belle Watling's boudoir, and just the colors, just and so in a way that's, I think, my apartment looks like it's out of Gigi. It's just, I like the reds and the intense color.
Yes, you talk about your apartment. Now, there's a video out there. Please, my audience, please Google Charles Busch apartment, and there's a tour of it, like a 4-minute tour.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
It's called, the site is called apartmenttherapy.com.
Apartment, but it's a beautiful apartment. Wait till apartment. It's beautiful. So you moved to you started living in New York permanently at 14. No, what high school did you go to when you were there?
Well, when I was flunking out of grade school. I went through a bad period, and because my mother died when I was 7, and I just kind of was drifting along in a way, almost being raised by myself for a number of years with my sister, and so it got to the point where I really was in very bad shape, and couldn't really focus, and so I was going to be left back. And that was when my aunt, who was my mother's older sister, stepped in, and she took me to live with her ostensibly just for the summer, so I could go to summer school, and if I passed those exams, then I could continue with my class. And I was going to school in Westchester, in a suburb of New York City called Hartsdale. But Aunt Lillian wanted to keep me in New York, and then I got to live with my aunt full time in New York City, where she could, really give me a hard time and try to, instill in me just the basic skills of studying, of concentration. I never really quite got it. I was able just to get better, but I never really succeeded. But enough I got into college. That was the goal.
Yeah.
That was
so
the big goal.
You went to Northwestern University.
Yeah.
How and why did you get there?
We wondered. When I got accepted in, my aunt was like, how the hell did that happen? I don't know, really, because I was a very prestigious school. But it was hard for me when I got to Northwestern, being kind of newly sexualized, gay, to throw myself into these acting classes where you had to use yourself, but in playing these straight roles. There were no, at that time, there was no Torch Song Trilogy or Angels in America or any of these roles today over the past 30 years, that are for androgynous young men. The important thing for me was that I met some really interesting people, students, and who later became real colleagues of mine, particularly one person in particular, Ken Elliott, who I was friendly with at Northwestern, but then after we graduated, we stayed in touch, and he came to New York, and we ended up becoming roommates, and he became the director, producer of all of my early plays. Then we started a theater company together. So the great thing about Northwestern was that I met Ken, basically, is what it is. That was worth the 4 years. But I was almost never cast in a play. I just was too, I was too gay. And what was, I must say, I pat myself on the back, was that I had enough sense to see that, okay, I'm not being cast in any of these plays, but I still feel like I have something in me that's special to offer, and I didn't let it destroy me. I think somebody else might have just thought, well, that's it for me. I don't fit in, so I just will give up. And that was never occurred to me in a million years. I thought, they don't see it, but I think I have something there that's, and then fortunately, at that time, when I would go back home to New York, I became exposed to more downtown experimental theater, and particularly the work of this extraordinary figure in off-Broadway history, Charles Ludlam. And
yes. I want to talk more about your early days in New York as a young adult, and we'll get to that right after this break.
Great.
I told you it was going to be a good interview, and we've got lots more coming up. But first, we want to hear what Dwayne Scott Searney's been finding up in my attic.
What's in your attic?
Hey there, Dwayne Scott Searney.
Hey, Amber. Wow, I had no idea that up in your attic you had vintage exploitation film posters. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're kind of shocking. So this week, these are all originals. I'm not showing you any repros, and everything's real. And you will see in really bad taste.
Okay. It's Amber Live.
Anything can happen. So the first up one is Marijuana. I'm sure lots of people are familiar with this. This was from 1936, directed by Dwayne Esper. Very similar to Reefer Madness. And when this was originally released, it was double billed with a film called How to Undress for Your Husband.
Adults only.
Well, it's going to get more adult than that. Next one up is called Teenage Mother.
Oh.
And this was also known as the Hygiene Story. This is from 1967. And it was infamous for its narrator's ominous words, 9 months of trouble.
Did you say 1967?
1967, yeah. Oh, what's also fun about that, it starred a 15-year-old actress by the name of Arlene Sue Farber, whose the quote from the film was, "She did her homework in parked cars."
Okay.
Into the movies, I guess. So the exploitation films. So these are from 1920s through the 70s, and a lot of times these were made to be like kind of educational, but that was just a gimmick to get you in, because really it was just to show you something provocative and, well, exploitative. Next up is Child Bride of the Ozarks, 1938. Though I think this is the original poster, but this is a later print of one of their variations when they were promoting it. And this was infamous for its depiction of topless nude swimming and really, really bad acting.
Shotgun wedding.
Those are the reviews of the time. Next one is, this is classic. Everybody knows this, probably one of the most famous exploitation films of all time, Chained for Life, starring the Hilton sisters, from 1952. These are real conjoined twins, Violet and Daisy Hilton. And the film incorporated aspects of the twins' lives, including the marriage of one of them, which was a big scandal at the time. And I found this little detail. So this was screened at the Worst of the Worst Film Festival, along with Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I'm sure you've seen, Teenage Caveman, and, wait for it, coming soon, Glenn or Glenda.
Oh.
Woo. Okay, next up. Now, I want you to see this because this is a peekaboo. This is a burlesque poster. But think about what I just showed you, and look how this is set up, how it's designed, the graphics, the type style, the provocativeness of it. So this is where a burlesque poster kind of mimicking that exploitative nature of just film, which I just kind of found interesting.
Now, what kind of theaters would show these? With the Cineplex or?
Oh, really good question. These would often be shown more like a VFW hall. Really, anywhere where you could put a sheet up, right? Yeah, and that was kind of the gimmick of it. Sometimes they were used for fundraisers, and some of these movies made a lot of money because it was just filmed on a shoebox, and then you go to the next town and you show it. I'll say a little bit more about one more coming up here. The next one is Mom and Dad. Now, Mom and Dad, I heard about this from a John Waters interview, so I had to track it down, and I found a copy of it. This is from 1945. And this is what I'm talking about. This film cost $67,000 to make, and it has grossed over $40 million. And now this is another one of these personal hygiene films about the dangers of pregnancy and VD. And my favorite thing about this is that these were often shown to two separate audiences, where women would be allowed to come in, just women, and see this film, about childbirth, right, as presented as something educational. And often they had a nurse there just in case someone fainted. And invariably, someone who was given a buck fainted. And then these wives would go home and say, hey, honey, the men's show is at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. You should go see it. Well, of course, all the guys showed up because they thought they were going to see a dirty movie. So that was how they marketed it, which is kind of brilliant. And I don't know of any other film that's come out that would be just for women and just for men. The things you learn here on Amber Live, right?
I wonder if there were any guys who presented themselves like me, who went to the women's show to.
You must be psychotic because Russell, let it roll. Glenn or Glenda, 1953. This starred Bela Lugosi as the doctor. Like you'd want this guy giving the exam. And this was a showcase to present cross-dressing, transvestism, and quality-made Angora sweaters. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
Who directed that one, or who created that? Glenn and Glenda.
Glenda. I don't have the director on the. Well, that was Ed Wood. Ed Wood directed it.
That's what I thought.
But he didn't produce it. That's the one thing he didn't produce.
Oh my! Now, have you seen any of these movies?
Oh, I've seen all these movies.
What?
For my collection, I collect exploitation films. So,
I was going to say, what VFW have you been to?
Well, yes, I wear a sheet. I can go anywhere.
All right, Dwayne Scott Suni, thank you very much for showing us. Come back to my attic anytime.
Off to Charles Busch. I can't wait.
Yes. Me too. We'll bring it right now. Yes. So, bye-bye, Dwayne Scott Suni.
What's in your attic?
And now, part 2 of our interview with Charles Busch. All right, I'll continue my interview with Charles Busch. We talked about his early days growing up in New York City and the experiences at Northwest University. Now we're going to find out what happened when he returned to the Big Apple. Charles, come back in. So, Charles, you were saying that you were being exposed to some of the different types of theater that was happening in New York at the late 60s, early 70s. Tell me about that.
Well, there really was a kind of a golden age of the, I guess you call it the avant-garde. And there were all these wonderful figures of Richard Foreman and Judith Malina and Tom O'Horgan, and then for me really was Charles Ludlam, who was a playwright, actor, director, who had his own theater company called the Ridiculous Theatrical Company, and he really is a very influential figure to a lot of people. Bette Midler, I don't know, just all sorts of people could have acknowledged that. And when I saw him perform in one of his plays, it just opened up a whole world to me of what I thought. Oh, the very things that seemed to make me unemployable were celebrated in his aesthetic, and he had male actors playing female characters, and he himself. I mean, it's funny that people write about him as being like this great drag star when out of 36 plays, I think only 4 of the roles were female, but so that he's kind of typed. But yeah, he was just phenomenal performer, and great charisma. So when I saw him and his company, it gave me inspiration to really write, to be more serious about my writing. And I'd always been writing plays since I was a little kid, but I somehow I guess my love of performing was so overwhelming that I didn't really think about being a writer. But when I would imagine that after seeing Ludlum creating roles for himself, that I thought, well, that's what I should do. That maybe that's the only way I can be an actor is to create the part for my very special abilities.
Did you contact him?
Yeah, well, I had seen him in a number of his plays, and then well, I guess maybe it was what year? It might have been my senior year at college, I guess, perhaps. And yes, it was. He was touring, and his company, they came to play the University of Chicago, which wasn't that far from Northwestern. And so my best friend Ed and I, we got there, and they were in repertory. They did, I think, a weekend, 3 plays, and I think it was 2 plays, and then they did a workshop. And so we attended both plays, and then the workshop, and we got to meet Charles and members of his company, and so that sort of established a little bit of something there. And then after I moved back to New York a few years later, I kind of stalked him basically just to get him to. I didn't. I mean, if I didn't want to work with him, I didn't even really want to be friends with him. I just wanted him to think I was talented. It was odd. I don't know really what. I didn't really want anything from him. I just wanted him to think that I was worthy somehow. So I was. I guess I'm jumping ahead a bit, but I'd stay after I graduated from Northwestern. I stayed in Chicago 2 more years, trying to figure out how I was going to get a career going, since it was not going to be something, go to an audition or get an agent, go to an audition. That was not going to be the route. So I had to really figure it out, and started putting on plays in Chicago with my friends. But then at a certain point, after 2 years of that, I thought I think I'm ready to go back home to New York City. And I knew no one. It seemed to me that the best route would be to be a solo performer. So I'd been working on a play for an ensemble in Chicago, but I took the play. It was called Hollywood Confidential, and I turned it into a solo play. I thought, well, I'll play all the parts, male and female. It'll be easier to get done than a whole play with a cast and a set and all that. So I became a solo performer just out of that. That was the initial plan, and I did that for about 8 years. And I fairly soon after coming back to New York with this Hollywood Confidential solo piece, I was able to contact Charles Ludlum, and he saw me perform it in a little cabaret room, and he was very generous and let me do it as late shows after his performances on weekends. He had his own theater at this point in Greenwich Village, and nobody knew who I was. So nobody came to see it, but it was just a nice thing that I could be there for, a few weekends, and the few people saw me. And I think it was the first time that I was reviewed or mentioned in the Advocate, which was kind of big back then, the magazine. So it was just good. It was not a success, but it was a way to start. And I was very grateful to Charles Ludlum for giving me that opportunity. And then my really big break, though, that changed my whole life, it was years later. I had about a 10-year apprenticeship, but when we started our theater company, Ken Elliott and I started our theater company in New York, Theater in Limbo, and we did this play, Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, originally just for one weekend in this bar in the East Village, but it kind of took off, and then we produced it ourselves Off-Broadway, at the Provincetown Playhouse in Greenwich Village. And that opening night, when the New York Times review came out, and it was an incredible rave review, and I'd never been reviewed in New York, and that just really overnight changed my entire life. The day before, I was still working as an office temp during the day, and from that moment on, I could earn my living in show business, and everything,
Wow.
everything, great that's happened to me. It really can be traced back to that night. Yeah.
Where did that show go?
More glamorous opening nights since, but nothing can be better. Where I came from and the day before and where I was the next day, it can never be as powerful as that.
Tell me the trajectory of that show. What it played at your theater for a while, and then what happened to it?
Well, it really was just this, again, a really a miracle. We had, I had been doing this, my solo performances and booking myself around the country at different theaters, but it could get a little grim, but I played it, I performed frequently in San Francisco and all these different places, but it wasn't adding up to anything. I still couldn't earn a living ultimately. And since I draw well, my main source of income was as a quick sketch portrait artist, on the sidewalk and working at art fairs and on the boardwalk and seaside resorts like Wildwood, New Jersey. And, it was a painful period, when you think you have so much to offer and yet you just can't earn a living. And that's how mainly people are judged. So, and I just finally I had a friend who, a very fascinating Pakistani performance artist named Veena Sharif, and she invited me to see her do her act way down the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It was kind of scary back then. It was an area called Alphabet City because the avenues are all named just Avenue A, Avenue B, Avenue C. It's way on the far side of the island, Manhattan Island. And in those days, it was pretty dicey. And anyway, Ken and I went to see Veena do her act, and she was playing in this little storefront art gallery bar called Limbo Lounge. And Veena's show she was fabulous. And I was so entranced by this raffish place, this tiny little narrow storefront place that seemed like kind of out of Berlin in the 1920s. And I immediately, as soon as her show came down, I found the young man who owned the venue. And, I said, I would just love to perform here. And it was so loose. He just looked on his calendar and said, I'll give you these 2 dates, Friday and Saturday, a month from now. I thought, I'll take it. Well, basically what happened was we were doing these shows at the Limbo Lounge, and then we got this following so fast, so quickly, really in a matter of months. And particularly when we would bring back Vampire Lesbians, because we did a whole number of different plays, particularly Vampire Lesbians, the response was so big. And Ken and I were kind of like, really? We didn't think it was that good. But, my solo material was much more complicated and personal. But that piece, somehow people just got into it. And Ken said, well, maybe this is, the commercial break that has eluded us for a decade. And we tried to get producers down there to transfer it to real theater, and they wouldn't touch it. And then finally Ken said we should just produce it ourselves. And he worked out a budget of, it seemed like an enormous amount of money, $55,000. And we raised it really fairly quickly when you actually think about it, within 6 months, maybe. And everybody pitched in, everybody's family, friends, everyone pitched in. We got it together, and we were able to, and then we got a hold of the Provincetown Playhouse on McDougal Street here in the Village. And it was a historic theater that Eugene O'Neill had founded in the 1920s, but had fallen on hard times, and it was known as a jinxed house. Nothing ever ran there. So we got a very cheap rent because the landlord thought we'd probably only be there a weekend. And we only had raised enough money to open. We had nothing in reserve. But then that opening night came, and we got this incredible rave review in the New York Times. And we it just was that I'll never forget it. Ever. I get emotional just reliving it.
I'm sure.
Well, yeah, because we were so terrified because we would have closed the next day. And I don't know what would have, I just don't know. I don't like to even think what would have happened.
Oh, you can't. How long did you run there at the Providence?
5 years.
Gee.
5 years. It's one of the longest. It's one of the longest running. One could say that it's the longest running straight play, non-musical in Off-Broadway history. I believe. I mean, you could debate this one or that one, but I'm going to say, I mean, it ran like, I don't know, like 1,700 performances. So it was nuts. But we were in it. We stayed in it for the original cast about 2 years, and then we were getting kind of bored, and we weren't used to that kind of long run, and it was a hard play to sustain because there was like no play there. It was just kind of these almost sketches. But we went back to the Limbo Lounge to do a play called Gidget Goes Psychotic.
All right, we've got plenty more to talk about, and we will when we take right after this break. We'll be right back. Oh, wait, there's more of Charles Busch. But first, let's bring Russell back in.
Hello. Oh, my God. So amazing.
Oh, I'm just watching this thinking, oh, my gosh, my mind was just, going boom, 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 what to ask, listening to him, absorbing his plays. Oh, it's just great. But we've got more segments to come.
And there's so much information from him, and it's such a wonderful overview of his life. And I mean, I hope that like film and theater students find this and like can use it as a thing to study of Charles Busch, because what an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, he just does things. It's great. Yeah, so we've got a couple more segments of Charles Busch. We've got Pass the Tea, and we've got Rocco coming up. So, and one more plug for the Bustiers, please.
The Bustiers. Yes, don't forget the Bustiers. That's what's really helping keep us going. Please use that Venmo at RJD Pro, or you can go to amberlive.tv and use a credit card to become our latest Bustier, and we want you to be a Bustier. So, and I do want to once again say thank you so much to all our Bustiers. You're vital.
Who's our secret admirer? That's what I want to know.
It's so hard to guess.
Yes, I have so many. I have so many.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's give a plug for one of our sponsors as well.
Yes, here's a word from our sponsor.
Every time I go to visit Upper Beaver Gash, I always think, why don't they have great shops like we do down in Beaver Pond? Well, now you don't have to leave the safety of your home and risk getting that pesky Beaver 19. You can shop at the Amber Live store right off the interwebs.
And it's a better shop than Peggy's Plump and Proud. Oh, but don't tell her I said that. She's still giving discounts to the Beaver Pond players for the costumes.
I like the great products like the coffee cups I drink my morning coffee out of, or my evening beers if I feel like getting all fancy.
Down at B&B Fix-It Shop, we use large Amber Live beach towels to lay out on the grass every day at $4.20.
And don't miss the Rusty Bean collection for all your bean needs, dude.
Ditto on whatever he said. I just love their shirts and hoodies. Oh yes, if they have at the Amber Live store. Oh, they keep me so cool in the summer and warm in the winter at the Amber Live store.
So shop at the best store in Beaver Pond, or better yet, stay on your couch, eat some pork rinds, have a beer, and order right now on amberlive.tv.
I want to thank the Beaver Pond players for putting that together. Thank you guys so much. Now let's get back to Charles Busch. All right, we have more to talk about with Charles Busch. We just finished the Vampire Lesbians of Sodom saga, and now we're going on to what comes next. All right, Charles, come back in, please. Okay, so you started mentioning the origins of Psycho Beach Party, but there was another name that you called it.
Oh, well, the thing was, we were in this long run, our little troupe, and we were very young, and we just, it was hard sustaining the energy of doing the show 8 times a week, month after month. And so we thought it'd be fun, when you're young, you got endless energy to do late shows at the Limbo Lounge in the East Village. So we would do our Friday and Saturday night show at 8 o'clock, full play, and then we'd keep our wig caps on and jump into taxis, go across town, and our audience would be waiting already, in their seats, and we come down the aisle, and get throw on our costumes and do. It was called Gidget Goes Psychotic, and it was based on, it was a spoof of beach party movies and the TV show Gidget, and that got a great response. In some ways better than Vampire Lesbians, and again, I guess Ken thought, well, maybe we should transfer that as well, and I'd done a big rewrite on the play, and I started thinking that it was actually had a little more to it than just being a spoof of Gidget, and we came up with the title Psycho Beach Party, and that's what we opened when we transferred it Off-Broadway, and it was really cool because we opened at the Players Theater, which was on the same block as the Provincetown Playhouse. And so I had for 1 year, I had 2 shows running on the same street. I mean, it really was an amazing feeling. It was so cool. Yeah. And so we replaced everybody, all of our original troupe. We went over to the Players Theater, and then my great discovery was to replace me in Vampire Lesbians was a very young man named David Drake, and we had all these auditions, and we didn't know, we'd never replaced me in a play, so we weren't even sure what we were looking for. And then one day we had auditions, and in walked David Drake. We knew this kid. He was a friend of our publicist, and he'd seen the show, like 100 times, and I thought, oh brother, I said, it's come down to this, that the kid, Pete Sanders, kid, friends were auditioning him, and well, he'd seen the show so many times that he could totally imitate my performance, and we were all laughing so hard we couldn't tell if we were laughing because he was good or because that he had actually picked up every strange little choice that had calcified over the years in my performance. And we bear a real resemblance, actually. Our bone structures are similar. And so we thought, well, what if, I actually coached him on all the choices I was making, so he would understand what was behind the choice. And so we gave him the part, and then and we did that. I worked very closely with him, and he did it very well. And then eventually he played it longer than I did. Oh, he did thousands of performances. Oh, he did it for like 2 years, off and on, and then kind of found his own performance, and he was marvelous. We owe him a lot. No, Psycho Beach Party though ran about a year. Yeah. And then it was made into a movie, but not for a long time. I had a wonderful manager who just passed away about a year ago, Jeff Mill, and he kept thinking that Psycho Beach Party should be a movie, and I didn't really see it. I thought it was so rooted in the theater, but he kept pursuing it, and it took about 8 years. I kind of didn't even think about it, but finally it all worked out that Jeff began representing a young film director, Bob King, and Bob King had an association with Strand Releasing, the production company, and they wanted to make a movie with him. And so Jeff Melnick thought, well, then you should make a movie of Charles's play, and it all worked out after 8 years. and it became a movie that has kind of a cult following. Yeah.
Yes, we have a clip of that. Russell, let's see
yeah?
it.
I guess we are the only ones watching the movie. These guys have only one thing on their minds. Want a wiener?
There are some fried tomatoes in that tin can. I can feel it in my nuts. You and your nuts.
You kids think you own this beach. Think it's a teenage world. Well, you're dead wrong. Let me help you with that.
Have I been acting strange lately? Who do you have to get a hot dog in this dump?
What?
Soleado por la mañana al mediodía.
A surfer chick with a split personality. Should I unpack my bongos? I intend to unpack mine.
All right, guys, come on. That's enough. Ah! What the hell is that?
Help me.
I hate to say this, but I think our little chipper may be the butcher at Malibu Beach.
Strange that the victim had only one testicle stuffed in his mouth.
Well, that's because he only had one. Plenty of meat. Only one potato.
A little sex.
I believe this is what you young people call it. A gangbang.
A little sin.
I've been a bad boy.
Bad boys get spanked.
A little psycho.
Kiss my ass, monkey.
Party till you drop. Dead. I hope you put some Bactine on that scratch. Psycho Beach Party.
That's the most exciting story idea I've heard in years.
Wow, that's a really good trailer.
How much involvement did you have in the movie? Obviously, you were in it, but did you have any creative consultants? Or
Well, I mean, I wrote it. I mean, I wrote the adaptation, although I worked very closely with the director. I'd never, written a screenplay before, and Bob King was very good, and so he it was really his idea. The stage play had very little plot, and Bob had the idea that it should also be an homage to 70s slasher movies, which I wasn't really familiar with. So that gave the whole, thriller plot to it, which was quite successful. And then they wanted me in the movie, but it wasn't going to be that stylized where I could at 40 be playing the young girl. So I had to think, who would I play? I could be the mother. I didn't really want to do that. And then I thought, well, if it's a thriller, then there should be a detective. And I thought, I'll be like the Susan Hayward, sort of police detective. And so I wrote that part in, and that was a lot of fun. But I other than that, though, I really wasn't around that much. It really was Bob's movie.
But it wasn't your last movie that you've made, because Die, Mommy, Die. Tell me about Die, Mommy, Die.
Oh, I'm very proud of that. What a dream come true. While we were, because there's the two movies are sort of related in that I guess I was going to go to LA to make Psycho Beach Party the movie, and Ken Elliott was living in LA with the idea that maybe he was thinking about trying to get into TV directing, and so he said he was living in LA, and he said, well, since you're going to be out here, what if we also did a play? Well, that's kind of nutty, but I said, well, I knew that Bob King kind of wanted me out of his hair, and that I'd only be shooting for 10 days. So I thought, well, why not? So I had to write something very quickly, and I had become very close with a young man named Carl Andrus, who's been my collaborator now for about 25 years. But Carl was fairly new to my life, and I knew that I wanted him to come out to LA and be part of this experience. So we were trying to come up with a story, and Carl said, well, maybe if we thought of, some classic or a fable or, that we could sort of base the story on. And then I thought of Clytemnestra and the House of Atreus, and I thought, oh, well, that would be kind of an interesting story, but make it like a Betty Davis, Joan Crawford 60s suspense movie.
We have the trailer of Die, Mommy, Die, so let's watch that.
Screen siren Angela Arden. You've heard the rumors, you've read the gossip, but now for the first time, the real story can be told.
Your mother is a sorceress.
She's a witch. Nothing but trash washed over the Canadian border.
Prepare yourself for a shocking tale of blinding ambition, forbidden love, and murder.
Kill mother.
All captured in color and told against the backdrop of sensational Hollywood. And introducing a new star in young Mr. Jason Priestley.
You and I made some heavy promises, baby. Get out!
Yes, Angela Arden's back, and she's ready for her close-up.
This time, it's for me, for me, for me.
That's a great trailer. That's a great trailer.
You didn't have any fun doing that, did you?
Oh, God, I just loved every second. It was a dream come true. I had such a dream come true. I just couldn't believe my great fortune. Every day it's like, what fabulous thing do I do today?
Oh my God, the costumes, the sets, everything, the wigs, beautiful.
It really was so much fun to be with, and I just, really, it was just heaven. Yeah, one of the great experiences of my life. And it's so sad that Mark Rucker died young. It's his only film, and but I have good news actually, because it's been a bit of a lost film. It's never been released for streaming, and I think the only way you can buy it is finding just an occasional copy on eBay or something. But Wolf Distribution is going to restore it, and it's going to be available for all of that, shortly. So I'm thrilled, because it was so painful for me to think that something that I'm so proud of could just be kind of lost.
All right, very good. All right, Charles, we've talked about that, and we've got more to talk with you later on. But right now, we're going to take a little break. Wow, there is plenty more of the Charles Busch interview. We're going to show it next week, so make sure you tune back for that. There's lots more. But first, have you been watching RuPaul's Drag Race? It's getting exciting. Let's find out what Emoji Nightmare thinks about it.
Girl, that's hot. What episode is this? Is it episode 9? How is it episode 9 and we still have 8 queens left? This season, I chose the wrong season to be a correspondent. Good Lord. Hey there, it's Emoji Nightmare, and it's episode 9 of Pass the Tea, RuPaul's Drag Race US Season 14. We start this episode with a lot of crocodile tears. Is that what it's called? Crocodile tears? When someone cries but they don't really cry? We start this episode with more crocodile tears from Jasmine Kennedy. This bitch cannot show true, authentic emotions unless she's coming out as trans, to be honest. But she eliminated Carrie Colby and was upset about it because Carrie was her sister. Jasmine and Deja both are talking about how they have not won yet and how they're really yearning for a win as the final 2 queens of the competition who have yet to win. The mini challenge is a photobombing competition, so Ru places them in situations with celebrities like Shawn Mendes and Lil Nas X, and Willow Pill takes the cake. Because Willow won, she gets to choose her team for the Maxi Challenge, which is a RuPaul's Drag Con panel about menses. Willow picks Deja Skye, Angeria, and Lady Camden. The other 4 queens are Team Leftovers, and that's Dia Betty, Jasmine Kennedy, Georges, and Bosco. During the Maxi Challenge, Willow's doing really well, and honestly, Deja is a great facilitator of the conversation, both of them doing quite well. For Team Leftovers, Bosco is the facilitator and does a really good job considering the panel is stumbling over their words, they're kind of rambling on, especially Jasmine and Dia. Dia? Especially Jasmine and Dia. On the runway, our guest judge is Nicole Byer, and the category is shoulder pads. For me, my favorite look was, of course, Lady Camden. I'm loving everything she's putting out. That Nutcracker look was really cool and inventive. However, Rue says Camden and Angeria are both safe, which means the remaining queens are the tops and the bottoms. For the tops, we have Deja Sky, Willow Pill, and Bosco. And in the bottom, we have Dia Betty, Georges, and Jasmine Kennedy. Ultimately, it's Bosco who wins this week, which of course I'm always happy about. And the bottom 2 queens are Georges and Jasmine Kennedy, who will once again be lip syncing for their life. However, the 2 of them lip sync and Rue announces that both of them are safe in what feels like, just feels like this is the longest season ever. We still have 8 queens. They all remain. I don't know why. I did ask you all who you would eliminate, and those results are right here. This is my updated ranking, and until next week, I'll see you soon. Until next week, I'll see you soon? Does that make sense? What should I say? I'm gonna stick with it. Whatever.
And now, here's Rocco.
Hey, Amber! How you doing? Guess not. It's me, Rocco. I know, maybe you can't tell because I'm undercover. As you know, when I drive, I like to pretend I'm a secret agent and I'm doing some sort of spy stuff. Today, I'm pretending the guy in front of me is a Russian operative and I gotta tailgate him with my co-pilot, Vladimir Zelensky over here. You can't see him because he's wearing a cloak of invisibility. So this is what we're doing right now. It's really cool. Oh, this guy's gonna get it, let me tell you. He thinks he's all cool. He's working for Putin. Putin, can you believe that guy? What a piece of crap. Anyway, me and Zelensky here, we've been telling jokes, and we've been laughing, and we've been loading guns and ammunition, and I threw a grenade out the window. All right, it wasn't a real grenade, it was a water balloon, but whatever. It was funny. So, I also want to say, hey, congratulations on getting Charles Busch. Can you hear me? Because, you know, Mr. Carl Douglas is singing awful loud all of a sudden. Charles Busch, one of the Bush guys, right? No, I know. I like that movie, Psycho Beach Party. That was pretty cool. And then he's got Vampire Lesbians of Sodom. Lesbians, come on. So as you see, I'm catching up to my my mission. I'm gonna go arrest this guy or do some James Bondian type shit. I got missiles and stuff. All I gotta do is press this button right here. Nope, not that button. What the hell's going on? Oh, it started again. All right, I'm on a new mission. I gotta go. See you later. Bye.
What a show. Our 97th show of Amber Live. Thank you so much for putting up with us all these weeks. And we have a lot more planned in the future. Some special ideas coming up. And we figure, why not? So we're going to be back next week with more of Charles Busch and many weeks after that. Until then, bye-bye.
Shug, why did the Amber Live guest cross the road? I don't know. Why did the Amber Live guest cross the road? Well, you see, Amber was out of vodka, and she went on a rampage like Dragzilla, and roared, and she was breathing fire and snorting everything, and her tail was knocking down buildings, and lots of people were talking in some foreign languages were screaming. So the guests had to get away, and that's why they crossed the road. Did you fall asleep in front of the late movie again last night? Well, what if I did? Well, it explains a lot.